learn language in a meaningful way. Materials should support students' understanding, communication, and also um, and engagement. The study also used the concept of materials adaptations, which means teachers can change learning materials by adding, deleting, simplifying, or rearranging content. This is important because every classroom has different students with different needs. In addition, the study follows the learner centered approach, meaning learning materials must fit students' abilities, interests, and context. It is also related to communicative language teaching, where the focus is on using English in real life communications, not just memorizing grammar. For the research method, this study used a qualitative case study design. The researcher focused on one senior high school English teacher in Banda Aceh, Indonesia. Data were collected in three ways: document analysis of teaching materials, classroom observation over 10 meetings, and a semi-structured interview with the teacher. After collecting the data, the researcher analyzed it using Little John framework and combined all data source to make sure the results were accurate through triangulations. The result the results show that the teacher mainly adapted material by adding and modifying them. She often added local topics, real life issue, and cultural content so students could relate better to the lessons. She also used videos, PowerPoint, presentations, and image to make learning more interesting. Besides that, she added speaking and communication activities and sometimes removed or simplified difficult materials. These adaptations had positive effects on students' learning. First, they help students achieve the learning goals based on the curriculum. Second, they supported different learning styles such as visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners. Third, they increase students' motivations and engagement in class. The materials also made learning more meaningful because they were connected to students' daily lives. In addition, students became more active in communication and developed critical thinking skills. However, there were also some limitations. Students were not always given the chance to reflect on the topic they learned. Some tasks were still too difficult to certain students, and sometimes the use of Indonesian or Acehese language was still dominant. Also, not all materials were equally effective for every student. Overall, the student, sorry, Overall, the study shows that adapting learning material is very important in EFL classrooms because it makes learning more effective, meaningful, and suitable for student needs. Okay, then we move to the last article, which is the evaluating the cultural contents in an Indonesian EFL textbook, Teacher's Views. So the first one is the related theory. Textbook evaluation theory importance of assessing teaching materials. Culture in EFL learning, culture must be teachable, not just included. Kaya 2004 framework evaluates delivery, representation, task, information, illustration, and also characters. Then the method. Second is method. Mixed methods. They use mixed method, which is quantitative and qualitative. 68 EVL teachers used questionnaire, and then 6 teachers interview. Then the data analysis, descriptive sorry descriptive statistic, thematic analysis, and then delivery guidelines, no clear instruction for teaching culture, teachers ignore cultural content. Then for the cultural representation, weak international and NES culture. Indonesian culture exists but still limited. Book equal Indonesia centric. See cultural information too general, not detailed enough. D tasks and activities not interactive, do not support cultural learning. And then E illustration not clear or not realistic, hard to interpret cultural meaning. F character limited and repetitive, poor representation of diversity. Okay, so this study is based on several theories. First, textbooks evaluation theory, which explain that textbooks must be assessed to ensure they are effective for learning. Second, culture in eval learning, which states that culture is an important part of language learning but must be teachable, not just included. The study also uses Kilich-Kaya's framework from 2004, which evaluates cultural content through 6 aspects such as guidelines, representation, task, information, illustration, and characters. Then for the research methods, this research used a mixed method design combining quantitative and qualitative approaches. There were 68 Indonesian EVL teachers who filled out questionnaires and 6 teachers who participated in interviews. The data were analyzed using descriptive statistics, statistics, and thematic analysis. Then, for the results, A. Cultural delivery guidelines. Okay, the text box does not provide clear instruction on how teach culture content. Because of this, teachers mostly focus on grammar and language skill instead. And then B. Cultural representation. The text has very limited international and native English speaking culture. It contains Indonesian culture but not in a strong or balanced way, so the book is considered Indonesian centric. See cultural information. The cultural explanation is the textbook are too general and lack depth. Details and activities. The exercises are not interactive and do not really support cultural learning on or discussion. Illustrations, the picture are not always clear or realistic, so they are difficult to understand in cultural context. And last is characters. The characters are not diverse, they mostly represent in a limited group of Indonesian society. So the conclusion is the textbook is not fully designed for culture based learning. It lacks clear guidance, strong cultural content, and meaningful activities. Okay, thank you for your attention. This was all my presentation today, and thank you.